Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. This is, we originally scheduled a webinar for March, which was canceled due to COVID. And last week we had a webinar, which, as you know, there were some technical difficulties. And we are anticipating that this one will go off without a hitch and will all benefit greatly from learning about the SSBA program and how it can benefit our schools. So thank you very much for joining us. At this webinar, you'll receive guidance regarding SSBA. If you have not started the process yet, and even if you've already started it, then you will receive some helpful tips and information. It is a pleasure to welcome our friend Eric Weinbaum to this webinar. He is a wonderful friend of the non-public school community in his capacity as the Executive Director of Operations for the Office of Non-Public Schools of the New York City Department of Education. We always appreciate his help and assistance in so many different areas. A few notes, a few points. So Eric will be presenting with a PowerPoint. That PowerPoint has been or will shortly be emailed to you. So you can look at it as the webinar proceeds. We collected all the questions from last week's Q&A. There were a lot of questions. At the end of the webinar, we are going to go through those questions and ensure that they were all answered. Please feel free to post any additional questions in the Q&A, and we will make sure to address any other questions that come up. We will also be sending a survey after the webinar. We would greatly appreciate if you could fill it out and return to us to help us continue to enhance and improve our presentations. We'll also be sharing the recording of the webinar as well as the Q&A and the handout after the webinar. And with that, it's my pleasure to welcome Eric.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you all for attending again this webinar. And I apologize for those that that were on last time, and somehow or another I got disconnected. Believe it or not, I did the entire webinar without even knowing it until the end. I was like, when I finished after like almost 40 minutes. I realized that nobody was there. So I got some good practice in. So I hope that whatever we go over today will be helpful for all of you. I'm sure many of you have already done some purchasing and some maybe haven't done some yet. So this will give you a little bit of insight on both ends. So I'm going to share my screen now, and hopefully we'll, this time if I get disconnected, folks will call me. So we won't have that happen again. Let me share. And you should see my screen right now. Okay. So we're going to start. This is the Smart Schools Bond Act. And this is just giving you a little bit of information on what is the Smart Schools Bond Act. It's a $46 million program for the non-public schools. And there was an allocation that was derived from the 2014-15 school year by the state, by New York State. And we used the 2017-2018 school year beds data in order to allocate to schools. So just as a quick reference, if you're on this call and you became a school that was officially provided a beds number after the 2017-18 school year, you would not be eligible for the Smart Schools Bond Act, I hate to say. It's just when the act was initiated and then when it was approved by the state of New York is why the 2017-18 school year beds report was utilized. So that's just a little bit of insight. Generally speaking, the Smart Schools Bond Act is for technology. It's for things such as laptops, mobile type of devices, smart boards, network equipment, things like that, that will help enhance a student's education with technology. This next slide is just giving you a little, I'm not going to read the slides to anybody because I hate when people do that to me on PowerPoints. You guys will get this so you can read it yourself. But what I will do is talk about each slide a little bit just to give you my insight on the information a little bit. But anyway, it's a one-time allocation. The funds do not expire. That's a very important factor that I do tell every school or anybody that asks. So there's no rush into spending it. I want people to be aware of that, because if you don't need anything presently, I know we all could use some stuff, but if you really don't need it, I'm always suggesting to folks to not purchase anything yet, only because, new things come out, new needs come out, right? We all know technology does not last forever. Like laptops, for argument's sake, we know they, could have a decent lifespan of, 5 years, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, and they start slowing down, things happen, whatever the case may be. Technology definitely has those limits, right? So no need to rush to spend on something that you're not going to lose. It's just the money's just going to roll over to the next year. So it's a good thing to know. People should be aware of that. So I just wanted to make sure that is mentioned. How to fund your school's allocation. This is a question that comes up very, very often to our office, to the Office of Non-Public Schools, and to myself. It's not this, a lot of people confuse it with NISTL, right? So NISTL, you guys, many of you that use NISTL funds, you go into FAMIS and you can see your allocations, your 4 different buckets, right? Textbooks, equipment, library, and I forget the other software, whichever one it is. This is a little bit different in the aspect to find your allocation. You have to follow these steps that I listed here on this particular PowerPoint, only because these questions come up quite often. So if you know how to look up your spending plan with NISTL, it's the same process, except you will see when you go into the spending plan, I'm going to go to the next page, you will see that where it says district, you're going to see 55. It defaults to district 55 for all non-pubs. You're going to be able to change that to district 64. And that's what you're going to need to do in order to see your SSBA allocation. Then you'll go to group by on that same screen, and you'll change that to activity code, right? And what you're going to see is this next screen here, and it's going to show you your activity code and your allocation for the Smart Schools Bond Act. What's important here is to definitely take note and write down those activity codes with the allocated amounts on a piece of paper or on a computer, whatever you want to do, because you're going to need them later on when you're putting your financial codes into FAMIS as you're about to place orders. So make sure you copy down both of these activity codes. And then you're going to do the same thing with quick codes, right? You're going to copy down the 2 different quick codes, because each of those quick codes match up to the activity codes that you wrote down, right? And to give you an example why you're going to need both, there are many times, and schools have contacted us on this particular question. Let's say, for argument's sake, if you're looking at this particular screen right now, and this happens to be your school, and you have 18,000, it's hard for me to read, and I apologize if you can't read it either, but you'll get this PowerPoint. But the allocated amount is, I think, $18,492 for the first quick code and activity code. Let's just say your purchase that you decided to do at this particular time frame was $20,000 worth of technology. So obviously you're going to need both lines, right? You're going to need both quick codes and both activity codes. So when you're adding those financial codes into the into FAMIS, you're going to be typing both in because it's over the 18,000, and you're going to be able to split the funds in order to make those purchases, right? So you can totally wipe out one activity code and still have some left in the other because you only need, let's just say for argument, $300 out of the second activity code and quick code, which on this screen shows you is 13,000 something dollars there. I can't really see it, it's kind of small, but I just wanted to give you the gist of why you're going to copy down both at one time, because you're going to want to add both if your initial purchase is going to be over that one line activity code allocated amount. All right. Once you have all this information on the allocation piece, then you're going to follow the two guides that will be emailed to you on how to initiate a level 100 purchase order and how to approve a level 200 purchase order. And you'll just follow the screenshots from there. It's very similar to these screenshots. We tried to make it as simple as possible, so you shouldn't have many questions. Some will, but if you do, you just reach out to SSBA loan at schools.nyc.gov, and that's all in the guides. There's nothing you need to write down presently. All that information will be in the guides, and it'll be emailed to you after this meeting. And it will be, it's also emailed to you guys when we receive your user agreement for the Smart Schools Bond Act. Purchasing guidelines. The rationale behind, I know a lot of you were used to in the past with NISTL. Prior to last year, you were able to just go into your FAMIS and create a purchase order, one shot. You just enter it, you hit, you process it like you would normally process it, and it went through and you received your goods, hopefully within 30 days. Since last year, we had to add a level 200, which is what I was just talking about. The level 100 is the initiating process, and the level 200 is the approving process. The reason we did that is very simplistic. It's just normal purchasing protocol that should always be followed, and I don't know why, for whatever reason, it wasn't for many years for the non-pubs, but it should have been. And the main purpose behind that, just to give you a little thought process behind it, is you should always have two different people that can initiate and one that can approve. Normally, the level 200 approver would be the principal or someone at that higher level than the person initiating the request that you're looking to purchase. Reason being is, let's just say for argument's sake, the person that always did the purchasing in your school, for whatever reason, you had to let go, right? Whatever reasons it may be, and that person was not happy about being let go, right? And this is again, purchasing guidelines. That's just normal protocol that it was with any business. And that person who no longer works for you has access to your financial, dollars that can make purchases, and still has access to FAMIS because nobody let us know, the Department of Ed, to cancel out that person's access and reissue new credentials. So that person can now go in there, spend all your money. Yes, will it still go to your school? Absolutely. It's not going to go to the person's home or somewhere else that they order, but they just spent all your money and just messed up like whatever plans that you may have in place. That is the real main purpose behind the two levels of approvals, of initiating and approving a purchase order in FAMIS. Okay, so I just wanted folks to know that we didn't do this just to give you guys a hard time. This was done to really protect you, on purchases that shouldn't have been made. On the other hand, it could have been the initiator, the level 100, purchased something, and then when it got to the school leader, to the level 200's approver, they looked at it and they said, that's not what I wanted. Why did this person order that? Now you have the ability to reject that purchase order without having to call us in a panic and saying, wait, we just approved something and it shouldn't have been approved. You will now have that ability to reject that purchase prior to it coming to us in order to create the purchase order for it. So those are the different levels of purchasing in FAMIS and why they were put into place. This is just the continuing guidelines on what I just went over. And also just to give you guys a little insight, because I know this comes up also at times. We approved the purchase, or we did the level 100 and 200 I'll get from schools, but I don't see the purchase order still says it's waiting approval. That is because it comes to our office for a final approval. And generally speaking, we usually approve those requests every 2 to 3 days, definitely by the end of the work week. So no longer than 5 days. And that also gives you, the school, the ability to cancel that purchase order prior to us approving them. Again, could things be canceled after it's approved? Generally speaking, yes, as long as you didn't get the order delivered. Even then, sometimes we can also cancel it and return it, but it's much more difficult. But this also gives you a 48-hour, little more, little less at times, approval, a period to reject it, to cancel the order because of something else that came up that you decided you preferred rather than what was purchased initially. So I just wanted folks to know that we do have that time frame. So there are some folks that it's urgent to them and they reach out to folks like Deborah, Sarah, Nama, Ami, whoever they may reach out to. They'll reach out to me and say, hey, listen, can you push this one through? It's urgent for them. And we'll try to accommodate those requests as they come in. We ask that everyone doesn't do that. Trust me, I make sure personally that these are taken care of quickly. The Smart Schools Bond Act and other purchases that are done through other grant funds. This is giving you a little idea on how to search for technology in Shop DOE. Just note that one of the things in Shop DOE is you cannot create a shopping list for technology. It doesn't allow you, as it does for other goods like paper and pencils and whatever other items you might be ordering for your school other than technology. It allows you to create a shopping list where you can then process it right into FAMIS, right? It goes from Shop DOE directly into FAMIS. You go into FAMIS, you find that purchase order, and then you approve it from there. That doesn't work the same way with technology. So there's two ways to find the technology. You can go directly into FAMIS, enter your financial codes, look up the different technology pieces, or what I suggest is going into Shop DOE and searching that way, where you can type in the search bar Chromebooks or whatever you're looking for. You could search by vendor, by Lenovo or whatever it may be, and those items will show up. You click on that item and you then can copy down the item number. So when you go into FAMIS, you can easily just type in the item number and it will populate and you could add it to your cart. So that's the easy way to do it. It also gives you the ability to do the math and add up, how much things will cost ahead of time. So you might have, someone on your staff put together a plan for you, and this will give you the opportunity to review that prior to anything going in and wasting someone's time going into FAMIS, where you may say, no, that's not really what we want, or we rather get a bigger bang for our buck and order X rather than Y, or vice versa. Note that just like NISTL, it needs to be SSBA approved. When you do go into, and you'll see that in Shop DOE, it'll say either NISTL or NISTL and SSBA approved. What you will notice is that when you go into FAMIS and you enter those financial codes, it will only allow you to purchase SSBA. So when you search laptops or smartboards or whatever in FAMIS itself, and you put those financial codes in for SSBA that I told you before, the 2 activity codes and 2 quick codes, it'll only show you SSBA products that are available. So you don't really have to worry about, did I order the wrong thing? Will it be approved? It's like a fail-safe type of thing. So there should be no big worries on that end of it. One thing you will note, those folks who have ordered things under NISTL or maybe using Title $4 or under CARES, and what you will see with SSBA is you'll see the exact item with a different item number that's not SSBA approved, right? So it's the exact item, no different, except for SSBA, they created another item number for a duplicate item. And the rationale behind that is just for auditing and accountability on the DOE's part, that we need to know exactly what was ordered for Smart Schools Bond Act to get reimbursed from the state. And so we wanted to just exclude all other items and make sure that anything that's ordered is SSBA and that it's easily, it's easily trackable in our systems to say, here's what we spent so far in SSBA, because these are the only item numbers that are eligible for SSBA. So it just makes it much more easily definable for us in order to run reports and report back to the state and to our central offices and city agencies. Expectations for technology deliveries. I know many of you that have ordered things thus far have gone through a long waiting period. And again, this is all due to COVID-19. When it hit us in March, as you can imagine, everybody needed technology. No schools were open, everyone went remote. People just started ordering like crazy, and vendors could not keep up with it. They went out to, what I can tell you is that the New York City Department of Education is given the highest of priority to these vendors, and they do make sure that our needs are met above other school districts that order from these vendors. And mainly that's due to the quantity, right? It's like with anything, quantity is where the needs are, and that's what drives the supply and demand. And so as deliveries are coming in, priority is being given to the Department of Education, and that's for non-public and public schools. Okay, so I just want everyone to be aware of that. We have found delays from all the way back to September, and I'm sure some of you guys can attest to this, with CDW for Chromebooks that are just coming in now. We were given dates from CDW that their Chromebooks wouldn't be available till end of January, end of December, early January. So as these pallets are coming in, they're going right out. So the only thing I could recommend are a couple of things is to make sure you get your orders in, regardless if it's in stock or not, because trust me, you can call the vendors yourselves. They're going to tell you exactly what I'm telling you now, is that at many times they do not know what's coming in, but they do know what the needs are if you put the orders in, and they can then push the suppliers that they're getting them from, the manufacturers that is, to say, we know our needs are going to be X, Y, and Z, right? So these are the things that we're hearing from all the vendors, Apple, Lenovo, CDW, Acer, all of them, on laptops and Chromebooks, generally speaking. Smartboards haven't been a problem. Printers really haven't been a problem that I'm aware of. But again, for mobile devices like laptops and Chromebooks, we're hearing anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks to 2 to 3 months. So it's really, and again, those 2 to 3 weeks are when you just happen to hit it right, when pallets are coming in and they're getting enough stock in order to accommodate your needs and other schools' needs at the same time. What I have been also told by the vendors is they feel that they're at the point where they're catching up on their requests and the manufacturers are keeping up with it. So I think that stretch of the 2 to 3 months has shrunk down or is shrinking down as we speak. So I think we hit that plateau, and now we're coming back down where things will hopefully get back to normal as far as technology. Because let's face it, most have received technology because we've been remote since March, in many cases, forced to go in March, obviously, and then we came back into the schools in September. So that's really, I think, why things have settled down a bit. You know, this information obviously is as of today, 12/23. I wrote on here because that was when we met, and where we got disconnected. But generally speaking, it's the same time frame. That hasn't changed much. Terms of use that you will see on this, I'm not going to read it. Just for folks, you know, to know a little bit about it. It's, you know, obvious it's for secular studies. Strictly, it's not for religious studies. Folks should know that already by any purchases that you're making with grant funds. Also, folks, you know, I get this all the time when they read the terms of use and they see it's on loan to the school. That's with all grant funds that are, you know, that are managed through the public school system, the LEAs, which is what we are to you guys, to the non-public sector, right? Because it's taxpayers' funds, and there has to be a way to manage that. And the rationale behind why it's considered on loan is if your school closes, right? What happens to that equipment? That doesn't, you can't just give it out to people and say keep it, right? It's on loan because it's taxpayers' funds, and that has to be used for educational purposes only. So we would take it back in very few cases if your school closed, for argument's sake, for whatever reasons, and we would reissue it to other schools. And it would stay in the non-public sector 9 times out of 10, I'd say 99%. I never heard it go from non-pubs to public schools, that equipment, when these things happen. And in most of the time, I would say also that the items, if your school is closing for whatever reason, we work with the folks that put this webinar together, with Agudith and UJA, and they recommend schools that could use the equipment, and we just transfer it from your building, if you happen to be closing for whatever reasons, into the other building. And we usually use the rationale that many of the students that went to this building that's closing are now going to this school, and we could really use the extra equipment there. That's kind of how it flows. So it's never something we take back So when you hear it's on loan, it's not like, oh, the DOE is going to take it back from us. It's never going to happen, never has happened. What happens is in those particular scenarios that I just mentioned. That's why it's said that it's on loan to the schools. Those terms of use come up when you place your purchase at SSBA. You'll see it. You've received it on the user agreements and all that. So it's something that's there. Delivery instructions and installation. What I will tell you about that is, and this is just from experience that we witnessed with when we went remote in March, is that it's very important when you're filling out the instructions when you're doing the FAMIS order, let's say, and you get to the point where you have to put your location code in where it shows your address, right? You want to make sure that where the address in this, there's two boxes that you could type in for special delivery instructions. I always tell folks to put in an email, a name, obviously, and an email address that you guys will look at daily, and a cell phone number that you will look at daily. And I say this because we ran into these situations in March, April, May, June of last year, where schools placed orders prior to March when we went remote, and then vendors couldn't get in touch with schools, and we told them, you know, that you must get in touch with the school in order to make the delivery, because we cannot have stuff left at doors outside, obviously, and schools were closed, right? So if you have that information in the delivery instructions on who to contact, the vendor now can contact you and make arrangements, because with the way things are right now, we never know when schools may close again, right? It could happen at any given time. So we knock on wood that hopefully that does not happen again, but it could potentially happen. So in order to make sure that you get what you need at the times you need it, I highly suggest that you put into both of those boxes where you could type the text in when you're, when you're verifying your address and everything, who to call, cell phone number, and email. Very important. Generally speaking, items are supposed to be shipped and delivered but within 30 days. Again, due to the way things are happening right now with, with supply and demand, it's been over 30 days. So the vendors are doing the best they can, and we have understood that at the Department of Ed's level, of the contract, let's say. The other piece with the installation, everything under Smart Schools Bond Act must be mobile. Again, it must be something that we can remove, and I went over those purposes why, right? It can't be something that's permanently mounted where we cannot remove it if the school closes. Okay, that's with any grant funds, to be honest with you, not just SSBA, but just we're going over SSBA right now, so that's why I'm bringing it up. But what we have worked with schools is, if you want these mounted, like for argument's sake, smart boards are only available in the mobile, with the mobile stands, not with the mounts, where it could get mounted, the installation included. We will work with you guys. If you want them mounted, you can purchase the mounting kit and have it installed under Title IV funding, right? So that is a possibility, and that's in here in this slide. It says it where the bullet is. So those are instances. Also, like for argument's sake, you want covers for your laptops, you want covers for your iPads, or accessories, let's say, that aren't SSBA eligible, okay? But you could purchase them under Title IV. So just think about how you can utilize the two different funding sources in order to complete your package that you're looking to place for your school, okay? So I just want to make sure folks were aware of that, of the ability to do such. This is just continuing the delivery instructions and installation. Again, things get nothing different than what you guys are used to. Something gets stolen or broken, you need to report it. There's a form that's given to you guys as part of SSBA and as part of our standard operating procedures on any stuff that's ordered through FAMIS with grants. You know, stuff becomes obsolete. You know, you guys have contacted us. We explained to you how to get rid of it properly, so it's off the inventory and it's off from auditing purposes and all that kind of stuff. So it's important that you follow these rules and regulations because you guys are accountable and so are we for this equipment at all given times. Now there's just some slides here of available SSBA technology. Again, common items, I went over them already: desktops, laptops, these types of things, monitors, you know, there's the Chromebooks, the security cards, the lockdowns for the security cards. I don't really like them, but some people do. Whichever, it's available. Here's some printers that are available, and then we have the smart boards and the interactive, the Promethean boards. These are the different things that you can purchase under SSBA. Here's some network devices. One thing I will say about the network devices that's important to know is it's not returnable, meaning that if you order something, you need to be absolutely sure that it's something that's going to work with your network. So I highly suggest that not to just order on a whim on things, because these, it's very, very different than the public schools, because the public schools are on one network system and we all use the same type of equipment, right? So that's what you'll see, generally speaking, in FAMIS. For the network devices, we know that non-pubs all use different, you know, potentially different network structures and infrastructures. So there are going to be times where you're going to say, oh, you're going to send an email to SSBA loan at schools.nyc.gov, and you're going to say, I need for my network X, Y, and Z. I don't see it in FAMIS, and we like to order network pieces for to upgrade our network for whatever reasons, you know, just age, whatever. You know, you'll let us know those model numbers, the exact stuff you need, and as long as it's with one of our vendors, which it will be CDW 9 times out of 10, and we will be able to add that to FAMIS, and then you'll be able to purchase that. Okay, so that's something that you should be aware of. So now that's a unique item, right? Because it's just for you. No one else really needs it, right? So we cannot return that item because of that particular instance, that it's unique to your school. Okay, so I just wanted you guys to be aware. So make sure if you're going to order something like that, that you have somebody with that background and that knowledge that's going to let you know exactly what you need and what the needs are for your particular school if you're going that route. The last slide is just giving you resources on the Smart Schools Bond Act, what it's about, how it was derived, and all the links to Shop DOE, FAMIS, and any information to contact SSBA loan at schools.mrc.gov. That is the end of the PowerPoint. I will stop sharing my screen. I hope we're all still here. I see that Ami's smiling, so that's a good sign. I didn't just talk for 40 minutes again for nothing. So I'm very, very happy about that. I'm more than happy to, and you guys tell me, you know, Ami, Deborah, Shauna, or whoever, that if you'd like me to show something else for argument's sake, like go over the guides, or FAMIS, actually like show the screens or answer questions. Your choice.
So I think at this point, we'll try to answer some questions. And if that leads to maybe showing some type of hands-on, maybe we'll get to there. So first off, thank you very much, Eric, for that wonderful presentation. At least for me, it did clear up a few things. So thank you for that. And I'm sure it cleared up things for others as well. So let's just begin with a few basic questions. And, you know, they're no particular order, but you did go through this quickly in the beginning, but some schools want to know, okay, how do I get my funding in the first place? What do I need to do?
Okay, so yeah, so like I mentioned, I know many of you who have utilized NISTL, you know how to find your spending plan. Again, I can quickly go into FAMIS and share my screen and just do a quick boom, show you 1, 2, 3, if that's helpful.
No, I mean, I was asking more in regards to the user agreement.
Okay.
In other words, would schools be able to see their allocation amount and do everything on FAMIS, even if they don't send in the user agreement, or it would only show up after the user agreement is given in?
No, they can see their allocation. Their allocation is also on the state website. It's public knowledge. So that's not something that is hidden anywhere. But what I will say is, without the user agreement, we will not process the PO. So it's highly suggested, and I believe we sent out to you guys, the folks who haven't sent in their user agreement yet, so we can, you know, hopefully get everybody's in as soon as possible. There's just 2 pages that need to be signed, and one of the pages asks for a notary. If you can get it, great. If not, it's not urgent to have it notarized. We tell folks that all the time. So, but it's just 2 pages, pages 7 and 9 on the user agreement that we need back from the schools.
Thank you. And regarding the per student amount, so I had a few schools at least reach out to me. I'm sure others have as well. Confused, they figure they should have a bigger amount than they do. So this question has 2 parts. First off, what is the per student amount? And second, my understanding is the funds are not all being released at once. How is that calculation being done?
Yes, that is absolutely true. What we have is a so the allocated amount is $201.32 per student. That is the allocated amount that is for each student as of the 2017-2018 school year. Very important to remember that, and that's on the BEDS report. You can see that yourselves by going into the state website to see what you had as far as students at that time frame. As far as the allocations were given out in a 3-year span. We are right now in our 2nd year, meaning that the first year was given, for argument's sake, it was like if you were only allocated $25,000, you were given the full $25,000 in the first year. If it was over $25,000, we gave you up to the $25,000, and then the 2nd year you would have got the remainder. So if it was $30,000 your allocation, the 2nd year you would have got an additional $10,000 to equal the $30,000. And the 3rd year is coming in the end of August. That's when the 3rd allocation will come into play. The reason behind the rationale behind why it was done in phases was because it's a reimbursable. And since we didn't have schools plans on how they were spending their allocation, it was suggested to rather than, you know, the potential of $46 million hitting in 1 month, which we knew just wouldn't happen. Schools, we wouldn't get that. And we see that now, that not everyone's spending it so feverishly, that we didn't want to allocate every single dollar at one given time. Saying that, we do have instances where schools need it, and if they provide a rationale on why they need this funding now rather than later, we do review that. Requests, you can submit a request through SSBA loan at schools.nyc.gov, and we will review that, and we'll do our best to accommodate. Again, it's not, it's sort of helping out us, needless to say, the DOE, not getting flooded with, millions of dollars in one shot, which isn't happening, thank goodness. And it's also giving you guys an opportunity to just slow it down a bit and getting, like, it's almost like getting your taxes, your refund at the end of the year, right? Me personally, people like your tax advisor might tell you, why would you want to do that? Why would you want the government to hold on to your money? Well, it's a forced savings. That's how I look at it, right? So I like to get the refund. Others don't. They will say, no, I'm not leaving my money with the government at all. And so I'm just using it as a example that you're going to get, additional money next year that you can utilize. So again, it doesn't expire. So there's no rush in using it. And if you need it, you let us know.
Okay, I just want, I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify something. I apologize, I'm not feeling so well. I want to just clarify, when you say it's a reimbursable program, I just want to clarify that it's not a reimbursable program in the sense that the school buys the materials and they get reimbursed. I think what you meant to say was that the DOE gets reimbursed from the state for the expenditures. Maybe you want to go over that a little bit more.
Yeah, correct. That we front the money, basically, the city of New York, and then we have to submit those expenditures in order to get reimbursed from the state. So that's how it works, the program. And that's how it works with many of the grants.
All right, so following up on that, I did have one school reach out to me saying, based on that calculation, the numbers don't add up. So if a school feels that the numbers don't add up, maybe there was a mistake, maybe not, who should they reach out to clarify?
SSBA loan at schools.nyc.gov, and you should, generally speaking, you should get an answer. At least we're looking into it within 24 hours. I know sometimes it's been a little longer than that, and I apologize for that, but we're working on our communication and more folks looking at these mailboxes rather than one or two people. So we have improved on our response time. And again, I mean, if that's the question, you can figure out what you received thus far is, generally speaking, a third or 2/3 of your allocation. So if you do the math and it's a 3-year allocation, you know what you're going to get on the 3rd year, and that's what you're probably missing.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to another question. So I'm reading the question. It says that it can be used to improve infrastructure for internet. Does that mean that it would help to pay for Wi-Fi wiring in the building?
No, because remember what I said before, it needs to be removable. It can't be something that's permanently mounted. And that's with all grant funds. So it's very similar to the CARES Act and any grant fund, that it has to be something that I could pull right out and not have to go through take walls down to remove wiring or vice versa. So infrastructure is meaning like networks, like I mentioned at the very end, servers, things like that.
Will the codes stay the same as opposed to changing year to year? Will be the same codes for the next X amount of years when this program is starting?
Yeah, I believe the codes have not changed. I'm 99.9% sure that the codes remain the same, but I'm not 100% sure. I will clarify that and let you guys know.
Okay. Is there a deadline for SSBA ordering? Is there a time, maybe once a year, where it gets shut down and you have to wait for the next cycle, or is it consistently and constantly?
Very similar to all purchases in FAMIS. The deadline is, generally speaking, April, May is usually that deadline on when orders need to be entered into FAMIS, and then FAMIS shuts down and then opens back up for that early ordering period with NISTL and things like that. But yeah, so I would say, especially if you need it, again, I'm looking at the aspect, as I mentioned before, where I brought up, do you need it now or not? To place an order when the system's about to close, we're almost like running into summertime at that point. Like, do you really need it now? And now it becomes potentially not antiquated, but new things are coming out each and every day that get added by our vendors. So, I would, again, recommend, unless it's like some urgent need, not to wait to the last minute to order something, on top of what happened last year where things couldn't get delivered due to schools closing. So we don't want to be in that predicament again.
So I'm going to ask a bunch of questions came in different variations. So I'm just going to ask it in one way, hopefully summarizes all of them. What do you do if an order is not on FAMIS? How do you basically request a specific item that would be eligible under SSBA?
Yeah, good question. We get that all the time, and we do add things as we see fit, as long as it fits within the criteria of SSBA. And those criterias are, it must be something that is needed for students only, not teachers, not parents, students only. That's the program is based upon students, the Smart Schools Bond Act. The second piece to that is, and this has come up in the past, where somebody wanted a Dell Chromebook, not an Acer Chromebook, which is what's on FAMIS. So to give you that example is, we cannot add a Dell Chromebook because Acer through CDW won the contract, right? And it's a bidding contract. So it's an RFP that goes out, vendors bid, and the lowest bid comes in, and that's who wins who gets awarded the contract. So it's no different. Now, if the item isn't available, so we've had a request come in for a dock camera, for argument's sake, that wasn't available in SSBA. They asked for it to be added. We had it added. There's cases where the item is in FAMIS, but it's not SSBA eligible. Those are really easy to add because it's already in FAMIS. It's just making it SSBA eligible, as long as it's something that's used by the student. A good question came up with the dock camera from our auditors. They said, well, what do you mean it's for student use? And I said, well, the way students are using it is they're providing their paperwork onto the document camera, and they're presenting it to the class. It's because you would think, like, someone who doesn't understand how classrooms work, they would think a teacher's using the dock camera, right? And it's not, the Smart Schools Bond Act is not supposed to be for teachers' use. But again, the dock camera, a student would walk off with a piece of paper and provide their presentation on the screen and talk about it. So it is for student use, and that's how we were able to get around that particular item. But I'm just bringing that up as an example, but yes, things can be added as long as it's not in FAMIS and it's a student type of equipment, something that students use.
Right. So
they would email SSBA loan again. Everything is SSBA loan. We say that because we're working remotely, 90% of us. There are some people in the office, but many of us are working remotely, and that is the quickest and most efficient way to gather this information.
So just to clarify, so if a school wanted to use their SSBA funds for security cameras, that would not work. But let's say a school wanted to use their SSBA funds for a 3D printer, assuming that the kids are going to be using that 3D printer for their own usage, or even maybe a heavy duty printer for the use in the, in the computer room, whatever it is. As long as the students are going to be using it directly, that would work. I just want to summarize that. Okay, thank you so much for that. Now, this is a practical question. What's the difference between Shop DOE and FAMIS? Is that the same thing? And does it make a difference where I purchase from?
Yeah, good question. That comes up all the time also. They interact with each other, let's say. Shop DOE is part of FAMIS. If you go into FAMIS and you go and you click on the left-hand side, you will see there is a pull down. When you click on purchasing, you will see a line there that says Shop DOE requests, right? And that's how schools basically, that's the level 200, right? That's where they approve that initiating order from the level 100, which happens in Shop DOE. So Shop DOE is like your shopping cart, like Amazon. Little different because I'm at Amazon, it's a one step right through the same application. Shop DOE goes from Shop DOE, then into FAMIS. Again, technology is different, right? As I mentioned before, technology is the one thing that doesn't go directly from Shop DOE into FAMIS. That's why I said you have to copy down the item number from Shop DOE and then go into FAMIS so you can find that item number. But you could do that directly into FAMIS also. You could skip the Shop DOE process. It's really more when you're just not sure what you want yet and you're looking to see what's available in the systems. That's where I suggest folks to go into Shop DOE to create a plan, for the school.
So I'll be honest, there's so many questions. I doubt we'll even get to a fraction of them. I also have a bunch of questions from last time. So I'm just gonna I'm gonna ask maybe one or two more questions, but I'm just cutting in now. What I would like to do is we're gonna maybe try to create a Q&A. We'll answer what we can, we'll send to Eric what we can't answer, and he'll try to answer us. A lot of the questions are addressed in either the PowerPoint that Eric shared with us or the other links, so you might wanna look at those. Let me just, here's an interesting question which I don't know the answer to. Is there used equipment laptops available at discounted rates on FAMIS? Or let me phrase that another way. Could that be created if not? In other words, to get used equipment so schools could get things at a discounted rate?
No, there's not refurbished equipment available that I'm aware of. But what I will say is we get these requests all the time from schools that have old laptops and the old laptop carts in their schools, printers, cameras, whatever they may have from who knows how many years ago. And if you have somebody that knows technology, you can update those yourselves for a lot less of a cost and add that to your inventory. Because we consider that obsolete, most of that equipment, after 5 years, technology we can consider obsolete. And we've donated a lot of that equipment to different causes that are out there, for battered women and different causes that these go to good use for. But we've also transferred them from one school to another that wanted them. So if anybody's interested in equipment such as laptops and stuff, that's 90% of the stuff we get is laptops. Like, what do we do? We ordered all these new laptops. We don't want these other ones anymore. What do we do with them? Let us know. Send us an email through again SSBA loan. And we will put you down on a list to call when these come up, and we could transfer these to your school. I hate this, I tell schools all the time, you sure you want to get rid of them? Because again, if you know a parent or somebody that knows how to go into the systems of these and upgrade them, and we can even provide you guys the new images to add to those laptops that will update them. It's not a problem. You're on mute, Ami.
I was saying one more question, and then I guess we'll call it a day. And again, God willing, we will share all the questions. I'll try to create some form of Q&A. So the last question is, when seeing an item on Shop DOE, how can we get technical details of the item, such as operating system and any such details?
All right, so I do this myself all the time on Shop DOE. So if I find it on Shop DOE, you can, if you click on the item, right, you can then get the information of the vendor who's providing it, and you could easily just call them. Or what I do is I just Google the item. I copy and paste the item into Google, and the model number and all that, and it populates, and you get all the information you want off the internet on what that item is. And it's something I do all the time also. It's not in Shop DOE itself, that information that you might be looking for, but it is available on the World Wide Web for sure.
So regarding laptop, just to follow up on that, regarding laptops, sometimes they have different, specs, as they call it. So maybe a Google search wouldn't help for that. So you're suggesting in that situation, calling the vendor.
Yeah, you call the vendor, but you would find it on the internet. I'm not sure why you think you won't, but.
Right. I mean, you could say, let's say it's 32 gig instead of whatever. I'm not a big computer guy, but assuming there's some like memory, the different, the amount of memory on this computer or laptop as opposed to a different one. So a lot of times that's more, I don't know if the product description would help for that. Maybe it would.
It does. It actually does, because that's the things that I do look at when I'm purchasing stuff for our office or things like that. So it does provide you all that information, the RAM, the BIOS, and all the information that you need to know. The operating systems, because that's. Sometimes you want to make sure it has, and that's why I mentioned before about waiting for the latest, right? Because every year the vendors update their products, which is another thing real quick. I'll just mention to folks that, some of the delays we've also experienced in the past couple of months was vendors pull their products down off of FAMIS. Apple just did that. They were the last ones to do that. And then they're down for like 2-3 weeks, sometimes 4 weeks, until they re-sign their contract and upload and repost their products, which sometimes it's price changes, sometimes it's item changes, whatever it may be, which happens to be another delay at times. So people should just be aware of that. So you may see it today on FAMIS, and then you'll go next week and you'll be like, what happened to it? That won't happen now for the remaining of this fiscal year, but it happened in the beginning of the fiscal year, even just as recent as last month. So I just wanted folks to be aware of that.
All right. Thank you so much, Eric, for the wonderful presentation. The first round of practice really paid off.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. The recording will be shared with everyone, and God willing, we will try to put together a Q&A for all those questions that were not answered, or for the questions that usually come up, frequently asked questions. And if anyone has any questions, again, SSBA loan, what was that? SBA loan at nyc.edu.
Schools.nyc.gov.
Right, at nyc.gov. Or if you want, you could email us and we could forward that to Eric and the team at that email address. If you have any other questions, feel free to call. Ms. Zaka, would you like to round off the presentation?
Yes, thank you. So I wanted to reiterate our thanks to Eric, not just for presenting this workshop, but for presenting it twice, as he mentioned. but also for all the days and nights that he and the entire Office of Non-Public Schools, the whole non-public school team, including Bernadette Fitzgerald, Jason Mullings, and the rest of the team, have worked with us since Corona hit. We had meetings almost every day in the beginning, and we still meet at least once a week and sometimes multiple times per week. So I just wanted to say thank you.
You're welcome.
Most of you know from my communication during the summer that I am officially retiring at the end of the week. But I will still be staying on to consult with the Yeshiva Services team until the end of June. I want to reiterate that there's a great team in place headed by Rabbi Yehoshua Pincus, with whom I've been working these past 4 months, together with Rabbi Ami Bazov, the coordinator for Yeshiva Affairs, and Ms. Shana Feller, the assistant for the Yeshiva Services Department. They will take the Yeshiva Services to the next level. And to the yeshivas, I want to say thank you for giving me the honor and the privilege to work on your behalf. Thank you, everyone.